Hey everyone, it's Paul Bertorelli with my annual post-Sun and Fun coverage of airplanes I'll never be able to afford. But hey, you know, I like to keep a positive attitude. At least I don't have to polish the quarter acre of aluminum on this P-51 Mustang. And if you're like me, you have probably wondered what it's like to own a Mustang, how much it costs to maintain, how much fuel it burns. Well, we're about to find out.
My father worked on Mustangs during World War II. He was in the European theater in France and England, and he always talked about the Mustang. He had a special love for this airplane, and you know, fostered that to me as a young man, young child really. And you know, I've always loved it, and very fortunate to be in a position now that I can actually own and fly one. Started flying with my dad again when I was a kid. My dad got his pilot's license after World War II, and we have a strip on our farm, a grass landing strip, and we always had something there. I got my private pilot's license 30 years ago in a Citabra, and now I fly a Scout. I fly a couple Waco biplanes and the Mustangs. So tail draggers have always been a big part of my life in aviation. Stallion 51, on top of doing training, they also play matchmakers. So they knew the guy that owned this Mustang for a long, long time was a real good friend, Max Chapman. And when I started looking for a Mustang, talked with them, and they were able to present this airplane to me. And ultimately, they were the excellent matchmaker that put us together, and we made a deal for me to take over the caretaking of this airplane for a little while. Well, the airplane came out, like most of the fighters today, are airplanes that never saw combat. The ones that were used when they were in theater, they were scrapped in place, or moved on to foreign air forces and different things. So most of the civilian planes that are flying today were all planes that were still in a factory or just finishing up at the end of the war. So it came out of that and was used actually in El Salvador for a while, and their Air Force was used National Guard, and it was surplused out in the 50s where it went into civilian ownership. And then Max Chapman, who bought it, he had it for quite a long time. He had it completely restored and gone through, and I acquired it just like it is. So the Mustang market today for flying Mustang would start at right around $1 million, and kind of the sky's the limit. An airplane that has all the right stuff and TF dual control, fresh restoration out of a top shop could be something over $3 million. Asking price on one for sale right now I think is about $3.5 million. Fresh resto, top, everything. Well, like other general aviation airplanes, we have an annual inspection, and other than that, it's condition inspection. Stallion 51 also maintains this airplane for me, and Peter and Richard Lauterbach, Lee Lauterbach's brothers, they maintain his airplanes, they maintain this airplane, and they're just constantly looking at everything on it to make sure that it's all working properly, everything's up to snuff. And there's little stuff that comes up kind of regular, but I have some fairly modern airplanes as well that we have things that come up regularly on those too. So parts availability is pretty good on the Mustang, and there's people out there that are starting to make some of the pieces that are hard to come up with. Roush Racing, Jack Roush, is a very knowledgeable Mustang owner. He has a Merlin engine shop where he does complete overhauls and makes a lot of parts for the engines. He also makes some airframe parts. And there's a host of other really good restoration shops that are making parts to keep these flying. An overhaul for a Merlin engine today, if you have your engine and everything's in pretty good shape, it costs $100,000. And in the aviation world, that's not a huge amount of money. It can cost over $50,000 to do an engine on a 210 or a Cessna 421 for an overhaul. It can be actually well north of $50,000. So very reasonable, really, in the aviation world. Well, the top end is good for about 400 hours, and the life cycle on the complete engine is about 800 hours. Yeah, so if we're going cross country, the airplane cruises at about 270 knots, just over 300 miles an hour, and we do that on about 62 gallons per hour fuel burn. My more typical flight is going to be something doing formation flying, or just going up and flying acrobatics, and our fuel burn with that will be a little bit lower in some segments, but it can be as high as 85 gallons an hour under higher power settings. So, but all in all, when you factor in all your taxing and stuff, you can end up planning about 60 to 65 gallons per hour. Right now I'm flying just over 100 hours per year, so I fly it pretty regularly. I'm averaging at least a couple hours a week. But as long as I'm able to maintain and afford this plane, I'd like to own it at least another 25 years.